Mama. Let's greet the listeners and those who are watching today on our program that is live, Black Excellency. On our midst, we're hosting President Abraham Papi Setsiba. Can you greet the listeners and those who are watching the program?
Okay, evening and happy Sabbath wherever you may be. And I'm privileged to be welcomed to this show.
Thank you. You are looking good. You are looking as a young soldier in the war.
Okay, I appreciate that.
My pastor, my president, there are a few questions that I will ask you today, but I will give you a chance because it's your day today. My first question will be, who is Setsiba?
Okay, my name's Mpapi Abram Setsiba. Now,
Yes.
My African name, Mpapi, I struggled within the family to understand what it means because it's not a South African name.
Yes.
But it's more an East African name, and it means a master teacher or something, that a bundle of joy, some small thing that causes happiness, like maybe
Yes.
when you look at a little puppy or a little blossoming flower,
Yes.
Yeah, that's Mpapi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us about your parents. Were you born in Adventist church, or were you a member of the clans like us?
Yeah. Okay. I come from Hammanskraal. That's the
Yes.
area in a village called Sirman.
Sirman.
Yeah, I don't know who tasted that to give it that name. But I'm from Sirman. I don't know the background thereof. Other people call it Tweefontein, but there are many Tweefonteins in Pretoria around there because of the Ndebele influence, in Africans or farm relations there. But I'm from Suruman. That's where I was born and bred. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I grew up. In fact, I grew up an Adventist. And I'm a third generation Adventist. Yeah. My parents, my mom was Polena Setsiba, and my father, Matthew Ratlachane. Now, my mom was an Adventist, from my granny, and then my father converted later. Yeah, so they were both Adventists, but my father separated with my mom when I was turning 8. So yeah, Adventist.
Okay.
The Adventist church is the only thing I know.
So, as your mother separated with your father, who raised you?
Well, I was raised by, I was fortunate because being brought up in a village setting where you have the whole community, around you,
Yes.
everyone being your parent, everyone being your
Yes.
bigger brother, basically I never felt the loss as such, because I had the whole community around me. There are many people who acted that role, the uncles, the whole community, as it were.
Yes.
Because you'll understand that when you grow up in the village at those years,
Yes.
the parents were mostly migrant laborers, So it was not like where you every day see your parents, that you can say you miss them, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, but then the whole community, those people immediately around you were responsible for you, you know. Yeah.
Oh, tell me about your schooling days from your primary to high school. And I know that you are one of the Bethelites. If you spoke about the person who go to Bethel, you're talking about people who know the church in Adventist church. They own this church.
Yeah, yeah, I went to Bethel by default. I grew up in Suruman, and then I attended the junior primary schools, higher primary schools. Like your junior primary school was called Tani. I don't know what it means. Whether it's a Shangan come here, I don't know. But Tani lower primary. Then I went to Palesane higher primary. Then I went to Muritela junior primary. I mean junior high school. Then I went to Ntswane High School in the nearby village. Then that's why I matriculated. I should have matriculated in 1981, but because of the 1976 gap, I had to repeat the standard, and I matriculated in 82 subsequently. So, yeah, I grew up in that era where on Sundays we will, you know, like the village was the school, basically, to tell you the truth, because like when I grew up, there were no early learning centers. Your sisters and your brothers will come and share stories of how lower primary school is all about. You never have seen a classroom in your life. And then they will tell you what is happening at school and teach you then. So what is important is that around 76, 77, 76, 77, then there was this Sunday paper, The World, you know. And then
Yes.
when we were at the soccer match, the elderly people will read the papers, and then we will be fascinated about the politics, and most things were happening around Soweto at that time, you know, brewing, and they will read and tell us this. But then I was in grade 7 around that time.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then you see now I grew up watching these things and being interested in what is happening, you know. And then when I then was in, let's say, initially I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
But but you know, as it were, like they will say, but being a lawyer, you'll be advocating and defending criminals. And I ended up saying I will be a social worker. And then I realized, no, man, social work, I'll be distributing goods that sustain people I mean, misunderstanding of all the roles or the dynamics of professions. And I ended up saying, you know what, I have to be a pastor because I was reading a lot. I don't want to lie. I see Kgotso is here. You know, his dad used to make a book club for us. As I say, to say, you know, in the community that we lived in, a child was raised by a community. There were those guys who were our elder brothers who will coach us, you know, and now his dad will make a book club. He was an education leader in our church. And then he will just read and then loan books to us, come and say we should share what we have read, you know. That's how I grew up. When I went to Bethel, for example, I was shocked to see people studying for exams, books like Adventist Home, Messages to Young People, Desire of Ages. I mean, by the time I went to Bethel, I had read The Great Controversy. I started reading that book when I was in grade 7, when I started, you know, understanding English constructions. I read because my granny was a literature evangelist, and my dad, you know, as an adherent or a person who was not in the faith but who joined the faith later, was also a reader. I mean, so as soon as I could understand English, I started reading, and I don't want to lie. The book, The Great Controversy, was my first book. I read when I was in grade 7, ready to finish. So Pastor Sidibeng was our pastor. You can ask him. He borrowed me the Daniel and Revelation. So when I was there, I read it through, man, Uriah Smith, everything. When I went to Bethel, I said, but can really people pay money to read these things? But well, they were part of the curriculum, and that's good, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Kgotso, mute. My pastor invited Kgotso. Kgotso is my best friend.
Okay.
I once was in I'm not sure. I don't remember the part. I was there when there was a funeral of Bafana, grandfather. I was there. Hey, they spoke Pedi. I didn't hear even one word in that
Okay.
funeral. I asked his father, what were you saying? He tried to explain to me. So I think I have learned now to understand many languages, so that you know that, because we have a lot of languages, 9, you need to know Sotho, Tswana, Pedi, everything.
Yeah.
So my pastor, tell about your calling as a pastor.
Yeah.
Your calling as a pastor.
Look, to say you are called, it's a term that is very evasive, because you will not hear a voice like Samuel. And by the way, even Samuel did not understand that he was called until Eli could interpret to him how to relate to those things. So that was one of the first questions when we arrived at Bethel, and people will ask, brother, are you sure you are called? And then what? How is a person called? But let me tell you, a call is simply, in Hebrew now, you understand it's kara, like to say that it's a conviction that comes, a conviction of purpose, a conviction of a duty that cannot be left to any other person but yourself. And so a call will come in different ways, but you are not called to nothing. You are not called being intellectually empty. You are called because, reading brings about a burden. For example, at that time, as I told you, how I started reading as soon as I was in grade 5, and which will be not grade 7, which will be standard 5. I mean, reading through the Great Controversy and reading almost all the books. By the time I was in grade 10, I had read Uriah Smith's Daniel and Revelation twice. So then I could see how the issues in the world are being fabricated, and what our role should be, in sort of either mitigating in terms of we cannot stop what will happen according to prophecy, but we can make it to have better results to people around the world. And so that is why then I said, no, I'd rather be a pastor, And actually, that is something else. Because you said you want to be a pastor. But let me tell you, being a pastor, it's not about earning a salary in an organization. Or being a pastor, it's not about being a professional or career Christian. But being a pastor, it's something of discharging your conscience, the role that has been built in your conscience towards the people and towards God. So, for example, if you are supervised by human beings, you have missed it, because it's not human beings that have called you. Your conscience should be alive to the issues, and you cannot retire your conscience. And that is why I look around, and people are career Christians. I mean, like, how are you called? And that call is a career. It has a lifespan. It's like, for example, when you are a traditional doctor, When you're a traditional doctor, you don't retire. Uthatha amathambo uwabeke somewhere uthi hayi ngiretireile manje, I'm 65. I mean,
Yeah.
a call, it's eternal. That's your lifestyle.
Yes.
So now you see, that's how I related to it. I felt obliged. In other words, when you receive a call, you
Yes.
are having a vision to integrate your understanding of issues with the development of the communities in which you live. Let me say that there is no leader who does not have a burden of taking the society to the level of his understanding. So a calling is like that. So you cannot say, now I've got arthritis. That thing has lapsed with the years. I'm old now. It's an ideological shaping of the future of the people. Now, I once said to another young pastor, you know, we were all young, and maybe I'm still young. I said to him, you know what? Once you are qualified, once you are educated, you must understand that you are educated to improve the quality of life of your people. But now when you look today, people disassociate from their backgrounds because they regard their backgrounds as mediocre. But then who is going to lift up the community from which you come? That is where other people will say, Setsiba man is a politician, Setsiba is the person of black agenda. How do you divorce your people? I mean, although we have to play an international role, but charity begins at home.
That's true.
Charity begins at home. The agriculture, in other words, the background from which you were born must be impacted to be different, given your own growth. You know, yeah,
I see.
Yeah, so
I hear you, but
that's my call. Like for example, when I was young, you know, growing up in a village, I'm telling you, it's an extra curriculum privilege, because you most of the time you go to church, only retired women and, you know, those women that are not working hold the church services. Do you know that? In our time. And now growing up as a boy, you know, you already see the vacuums, the differences, and there is no way you can leave that area without impacting it if it means something for you. Now, that's where the responsibilities, you know, we learn to be responsible. That is why people who are in the outskirts, those that are conscious, they learn responsibility at a very early age, you know, because you cannot hide behind anyone. You know, it's you and these old ladies or the young children, and you grow now to say what role they play. You know, I remember, like in my family, as it were, you know, I headed cattle, and then we will milk, and then at home they didn't have their own cattle. Well, my granny told me a story about their own cattle and so on. It's family politics. But now I headed cattle. And, you know, every day in the morning after milking, I will get a jar of milk to take home. In the evening, a jar of milk to take home. And I was supporting the family. When I did not do that, they will ask you, so where will we get milk from? You know, my labors, my labors, you know, you understand, a privilege of growing up in a village at my time, during my time. My boys will not do that. So there are many things that sort of conscientized me about being responsible and, you know, selfless. You know, to say when you are selfless, you are not only benefiting yourself, but you're also benefiting others. In other words, a selfless person it's not a person who is careless about his well-being, but his well-being is the well-being of others. So it is in the joy of others that you get your own fulfillment, you know? Yeah.
That is
Maybe
powerful.
that's a
That is
curse,
powerful.
that I have,
They're
because
calling.
other people will say, why don't you make money? I said, but if I make money and my people are poor and suffering, what's the use? Yeah?
Yes.
Enjoying in the ivory towers while your own people have no one to assist.
It's powerful. That means a calling is eternal.
It's eternal.
The calling is eternal. That's powerful, my pastor. Kgotso? Kgotso?
Yes,
Do you
Majikela.
want to ask something?
Look, I'm still enjoying what the pastor is sharing. I think I will engage more at a later stage. I think, yeah, for now I am just listening.
I have discovered that the first time we meet, if you remember, when we were deliberating, me and you, Pastor Abraham, I noticed that you speak revolutionary when you speak. The Bible to you is revolutionary. Where did you get that? Because many people are reading it in the Western way, but you read it like you are a soldier of ANC or from China, a socialist. How do you relate to the Bible like that? Because the Adventists are know of reading the Bible in a Western way.
Yeah. Lord, I was listening to another debate. I don't know whether it was hosted by you, African culture and whatsoever in the Bible. And, let me tell you, there is no Bible in an African language. Now, why am I saying that? The Bibles, for example, the Kgotso Bible that you have, it's a version of the King James Version.
Yes.
It's a translation, in other words. It's a translation of the King James Version. So you don't have, there is no, that is why we as Africans, a person will say, this truth, it's not very clear in my language. And when we speak or preach the word of God, we cannot relate with it from who we are.
Yes.
In other words, we borrow the thinking of others. Now, how then do we begin to say we need to, without decolonizing the Bible, how are we going to be liberated by the gospel of the Bible?
Okay.
And now, you see, that term seems to be a big term, but Adventists who understand the prophecies of Daniel chapter 2, the prophecies of Revelation 13, the prophecies of Daniel 7 and 9, will understand that it is the decolonized Bible that reshaped Europe. Now, when you look at it also from Revelation 12:15, the earth shall open its mouth. The dragon, the woman fled to the wilderness, and then the dragon spewed the flood waters, and the earth opened its mouth to swallow the flood waters.
Yes.
That thing, the earth opened its mouth. It talks about geographical localization of the truth.
Yes.
You must remember the official language for Rome and the Roman Empire was Latin. So the local tribes that were constituting Europe at that time, each let me say, each kingdom, while protesting against the papal domination, rewrote the Bible from Latin to their local language.
Yes.
And that way they discovered that the Latin promotes the Roman politics, but not the politics of their own freedom.
Yes.
And subsequently, you have the last regime, the British Empire. For it to be independent from the papal domination, what did they do? They have their own King James Version. and they were totally liberated. Now, when it comes to, in other words, the renaissance and the independence of nations is always tied up with what? With the decolonization of the Bible. And that's what the Bible speaks of. Now, when it comes to us, we have so-called intellectuals who don't see that point, who still read the King James, and they don't understand. For example, you go to 31, I think Exodus 31:13, if I'm not mistaken. But that verse speaks of the S that needs to be, the male S that needs to be broken the neck if you don't redeem it. And if you redeem it, you redeem it by the lamb. Now, when you look at that, you're not like born. There is no consistent growth of understanding of the Bible in a way that will liberate the black person. And when you look at it, why I'm saying that, that thing simply means, for example, the male S, it's a story of a black nation.
Yes.
Black people who could not be regarded as people by their own brothers. The black S, the Hamites, the male S, the Hamites, they are the burden bearers of their brethren, Shem and Japheth. All the burdens and the problems of these other races are pushed down to the male S because it has a strong back. And no one can sympathize with the male S except the lamb.
Yes.
And the lamb is Jesus Christ. Now it goes to 1844. How are we going to know these truths if our theologians don't restudy the Bible and use classical languages to sift out, the meaning? Because at the end of it all, when Jesus Christ shall come, there is no nation that will hide its responsibilities behind the other nation. There is no tribe that will abdicate its responsibilities to another tribe. That is why chapter 25 of the book of Matthew, he said he will gather all nations around him, and others will be the sheep, others will be the goat. What will the black race be?
Hey,
so
my pastor.
We have to take responsibility for our own education in a way that will restore our own identity. And we must not be ashamed, because other people say Adventists are not involved in politics. But let me tell you, that's a very good statement to make you numb. Because religion itself is political. Jesus Christ himself is a political head. Why is it a kingdom? A kingdom that destroys other kingdoms.
Yes.
Now, why? When Jesus shall come, why will he call all nations to account individually? Now, when you look at that, nations are ethnos in Greek. Now, ethnos have to do with cultural leadership. In other words, as a family, as a black people, as a society, we have to gather around common leadership in a way that will preserve our heritage and lead us in the destiny of our own calling. Because no one will fulfill what we were called to do.
Hey, it's very deep, my pastor.
Yeah,
but let's go forward for the sake of time.
Move.
I like the point that you have raised. As African, we need to take off ourselves. I like that point.
Yeah.
That point is very deep. But we'll come back to other issues. Let's go forward. Which year did you attend? Do you start studying for theology?
Which year?
Yeah.
When I was born a theologian. As I let me tell you something, my brother. You know, Thomas Sankara.
Yes.
Says people who are educated by the oppressors, their highest achievements are the degrees that they have, not the value that they are in the community.
Repeat it.
Now,
can you?
Now, the achievement, for example, you can see even in our setting, we've got people with abbreviated status.
Yes.
LL what, BD what. Those abbreviations end there. What is their value except that they want to get better salaries?
Yeah.
So you see now, when you look at the reformers, the Reformation and the Revolution has never been done by people who were learned in informal institutions. Formal institutions only assist you to have an idea of how to access the truth. But it is in the process of self-education that you get more clarity of what your role is and what the truth is. So, Menana, I would say sometimes I regret that I did not go too far in my theological studies, too far. But let me tell you, what is the opinion of a orthodontist in China on the rotten teeth of an African child? That orthodontist may not understand Kgotso, but he will tell you in Chinese that you've got the same problem that children in China have.
Yes.
It means that these people have learned the truth about what they are doing. But now, theologically, why is there no unity of faith? Okay, let's leave it. So I'm simply saying it's because there is no reflection. There is no time to meditate on what actually is God's will. People just do things, play roles. They role play. They don't actually mean what they are doing. They don't even understand what they're doing.
Oh, my pastor. Hey, we must go forward.
Yeah, don't be captivated, man.
Yeah.
Don't be captivated. Just
take me to the time when you start to work now as a church pastor. But before that, what I know is that when I was speaking with Kgotso, was attending the funeral side, I spoke with Kgotso asking about this Pastor Mawela.
Yeah.
Kgotso told me that you come from the same area.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out in the time of Truth and Commission of South Africa, Truth Commission, I found that Adventists didn't even apologize because the white Adventists were part of apartheid because they were benefiting. We were separated. The segregation was part of Adventist church.
Yeah.
I will listen to another clip when Pastor Mawela was speaking. He was clear and concrete when he's speaking about, but the church didn't even bother to apologize, even to us as black people, even to our pastors, because we were treated like dogs. They were getting better, staying in better houses, better salary. So I want to ask you, what did you learn from Pastor Mawela? Because you come from the same area. Can you tell me about Pastor Mawela just for a minute?
Well, he was a good Pastor Mawela. Yeah. Look, he's not my peer, man.
Okay.
He's not my peer, but yeah, we are from the same area. And I think more or less we share the same ethics, the same values. But you know, he was a man who spoke his mind and stood for what he believed in, you know, though the heavens fell, you know. But I am me, you see. I am me, and I think basically from Sir Men, that sourness It's still there. The tanginess that, upset the tastes. It's still there. But look, overall, the Adventists, you see, we expect a perfect church, while we don't want perfection. And at the end of the day, where is that church if it's not where we are? Now, apartheid, our theologians have not interrogated the evil of apartheid and it being hypocrisy and apostasy. We cannot sustain any of the fundamental beliefs of the church while we are racist. Because apartheid denied the creation story. Apartheid is about biological evolution of human species. And therefore you have the lower human beings and the higher human beings. You cannot be a supremacist and be a creationist. And all other doctrines will fall because you are racist. Now, in other words, and this is not a South African problem. It's a universal problem because these apartheid structures in the church were sanctioned by the GC. Now you ask yourself a question. Apartheid was based on social scientist conclusions. And as it were, those things are based on evolution. They're not based on the word of God. Now, why are people not charged of apostasy? We wink over it. Today you see in South Africa, they say, no, we are united. You are from the Cape Conference. You are united with who? United with
nobody.
Look at the same union, the same South African union, Southern Africa union. Actually, this thing nauseates me because it shows how naive are Black South Africans in the Adventist church. In the whole global world, a country such as South Africa, which is called the economic hub of Africa, but now I think it's being overtaken. It doesn't have a union. Its union, it's a regional union. But the country itself, you go to Zambia, you go to Zimbabwe, you go to Botswana, you go everywhere. Unions are national structures. What causes this malfunctioning when you come south? It's because people want to travel to Angola, to Namibia. People want to travel and be bosses in Lesotho at the expense of mission. I'm telling you, my brother, we must wake up. We must wake up. We are far behind our potential in South Africa. Far behind our potential.
Hey, my pastor, because of time, I see there's a lot in the tank, but because of time, let's go just a bit forward. Tell me about your time now, because what I know is that you became a pastor in a Free State district. Tell me about that time as a pastor and get in quickly as a secretary of the TOC, and as your time 2007 to 2020 to 2013, because you did two terms. 2013 is where the problem started. The other guys feel that you were doing the things in your own way, but we not get there now. But tell about your time as a pastor, your time as a secretary, but mix it with the time of your 2007 to 2013. But in those years, I want you to elaborate on these issues, on your achievement. What I know that in that time, you make sure that you built a new office of TOC. For 20 years, they didn't have an office; they were renting it. But I don't understand, because TOC is a place of is an economic hub. But I didn't understand why for 20 years you didn't have your own office.
30 years.
30 years. You didn't have your own office. When you left the conference, I remember you left almost 70 million or 40 million, but I want you to touch those issues. I know that you wanted, when we were speaking, but you told me that you wanted all the districts to have their own farms so that they can develop it as a black people. I understand, but want you to touch on that, on those issues, all of those issues, but take us through. I will give you that chance now.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, well, yeah, I enjoy being a pastor, as I said, and I don't regard being a pastor as something below my dignity or the purpose of my call.
Yes.
In fact, in our term, as the president, you know why I enjoy being a president? Because I don't want to serve under people who are small-minded. I'm sorry to say that. But there are some people who really fear innovation and freedom of others, you know. But wherever I am, I mean, local church, everywhere, I think my record speaks for itself. I enjoy my work and I stimulate growth by God's grace. So when I was secretary, well, I was just called. I never campaigned. Campaigned. And one thing that I learned is that other people get offended when they are disappointed. And when they appoint you, you celebrate. You think you are better than others. And then when the term ends, you are disappointed. I think this is a good system because it teaches you humility and to remain to remain true to your call. You know, many people fear just being local church pastors. That's a man. They rather as is they want to climb the hierarchy of the organization. But I'm telling you, you are leaving your brethren behind. Okay. Then I was the secretary, the executive secretary of the conference. I think I learned a lot. One thing that I learned as the executive secretary was to understand the policies of the church and to make it a point that every time a decision is taken, it's consistent with the policies of the church. That's the plus. You know, I learned the church manual and all the documents of the church and how they should be applied. By the way, at that time, I was doing my B juris because I had felt that in the 1990s approaching and so on, the transformation in the church required people not only to know how many angels were around the manga when he was born, but we're dealing with real issues. So I felt I need to redirect my education to equip myself. And I was just finishing my B juris then. Then I was the executive secretary. After that term, then I enrolled for my LLB because I felt I need to grow. You know, I'm a guy who is fascinated by my own growth. Correct. I'm not bored. I don't get bored by life because I always want to achieve something. So then with that, then when I was about to finish my LLB, then I was re-elected to be the president. And by the way, when people were canvassing, I said to them, I'm happy to be a pastor, local church pastor, very happy, very fulfilled. Even my family knows we are doing well, we are doing better when we are pastoring in a district than when we are in these things of the church. Now, then, I said, president or nothing, and I'm happy. In other words, I'm just happy. So by God's grace, I was given that opportunity to be the president of the Trans-Orange Conference. As you had said, it was my second term in executive office of the conference. And by then I had seen a lot of things. And I normally pray. And my prayer was when you read Prophets and Kings, Solomon, the temple that he built, they call it Solomon's temple, and they don't call it God's temple.
Yes.
Now, when you read that in Prophets and Kings, it will say it's because it's like people, instead of giving glory to God, they focused on Solomon, and they even called God's asset Solomon's property. Now, my prayer was, God, in my period of leadership, bless your people. Bless your people. And I'm telling you, God has been faithful. He blessed his people during that time. You know, when we're doing from 2007, 2010, we finished building about 52 churches, completed 52 churches. And our division said, where do you get the money from? And my point was, the church must not be richer than its members. If the church does well, the members must feel that they belong to a church that does well. By doing what? By filtering down the wealth of the church to where it must be. Because when Jesus comes, he will not ask the treasurers, how much is in your bank account? He will ask of the unfulfilled mission. So that's why we did that. Now, the second term, in the first term, then, we made it that we buy the office complex. And then we bought that for about 1.7 million, if I'm not mistaken. We paid it cash. And then we had, and then we demolished everything. Unfortunately, let me show you something. People say we are politicians, but politicians are economists. And the Bible encourages us that we should be economists better than the ants.
Yes.
Brethren, look, why are we serious about dismantling Setcom? The property we built for our offices, the title deed is with Setcom. Now, in other words, we don't have equity in that property. In other words, we cannot say to the bank, advance us 4 million from the value of this property so that we can build a church in Kuha. You understand? Or so that we can build a school. You understand? In other words, the balance of economics, it's not correct. But if we had title deed, that will be improving our value for our own development.
Yes.
But now it's locked with Setcom, and people say amen. And then whenever we need to do a project, people must sacrifice 6 months' salary to do God's work, while God has already blessed them from the previous accumulations, but they cannot use them because their value is with somebody else who doesn't care. Let's say, for example, in your Cape conference, like in all conferences in this union, when have you ever received a financial statement or a dividend from the increase of any estate of Setcom, which actually holds it in your trust? When have you ever
that will never. No, that thing will never happen.
It will never happen. Why? Because your leaders read patriarchs and prophets when we talk serious business of the church. Okay.
The issue. I don't want to go deeper in Setcom because we'll do the second part on this issue of Setcom because I want you to go deeper in the second part because the issue is that people who are hungry not only in the stomach even in the mind are too dangerous. They defend Setcom with their lives because others are fed by the hand of Setcom. So I don't want now, because I don't want to have some loopholes. I wanted to put it straight so that everybody from Cape Conference, those that are growing, can understand why you are fighting this issue of SETCOM. Because we're not gaining anything. The thing that will say that, no, that's why in SETCOM, when we are fighting, we don't want everybody to say that this is my church, so it's in the hands of SETCOM. I understand that legal and thing that they're saying. But Kgotso, you want to say something? Kgotso, can you chip in?
All right. Thanks, Mr. Majikela. I think one of the most interesting things is press is arguably one of the most misunderstood people, and the misunderstanding truly stems from the argument of SETCOM, right? And I think while you do say that we are going to deal with the issue of SETCOM in another platform on another day,
okay,
but it is very important to give context as to what SETCOM and the role it has played in the division in the TOC.
Yes.
Maybe let's start with the fact that SETCOM emanates from the 1913 Land Act, which prohibited Black people from owning land and owning property. SETCOM was then established in 1921 as it was supposed to be a trust to hold properties of Black Adventists in trust. However, one of the things that we discovered over the years of Pastor Setsiba's administration is that SETCOM was actually not a trust, but was a Section 21 company. And it was not holding properties in trust, but was actually an owner and a beneficiary of those properties. Like, for instance, the president talks about the TOC offices. The TOC offices, prior to them being bought for 1.7 million, were owned by SETCOM. So we bought them for 1.7 million, brought them down, demolished them, invested 12 million or so into rebuilding them into a state-of-the-art offices, and then gave them back to SETCOM.
It's evil.
I don't know if you understand the depth of the evil that is there.
It's evil.
That, you know, property is very valuable in that it can be used to create wealth.
Yes.
And until we understand the power of property and property ownership, we will never understand the evil that SETCOM has done to the Black church in South Africa. That our mission as a church is derailed because if we were able to use our properties as collateral in the banks, we could build institutions of influence. We could build hospitals. We could build schools. But what legacy do we have as a Black church in South Africa? We have no legacy at all. We have nothing to show because of the issue of SETCOM. And the truth is, and Pastor Setsiba will concur with me on this issue, that the real problem started not in 2013, but the problem in the TOC started in 2011 in the session of Godisang Church, where we voted to have a trust of the TOC, which was Baliti Trust. And the plan was to transfer all properties owned by the TOC into that trust. That's where the problem started. So we have a legacy of Pastor Setsiba tainted and defamed, not because he was evil. Many people don't even know the real story of what has happened in the Church of God, because unfortunately the debacle in the TOC coincided with a period where social media was becoming predominant in our society.
Yes.
And social media was used to lambast the administration of Pastor Setsiba to a point where by the time the leadership took to proper platforms to engage on issues, you would find that the lies had gone ahead. They say lies can cross the whole world while the truth is still putting on its boots. So that's my comment on primarily on this issue.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kgotso. My pastor, I think we'll have a second part of this interview, and it must be soon on Sunday. Sunday is where we'll speak deep about SETCOM. But now let's go to your time. To your time as a president, your achievements, not only the buildings, because I know the numbers grew a lot in your time, because it's the core business of the church. It's because it's the problem that I'm finding even now. I don't know the church, how the church is built. The church is represented by angels, but it's moving like a turtle. You find a lot of money is used to pay pastors and other stuff that you don't know. But the actual work, we are not focusing on the actual work we're supposed to do. So can we just explain those issues? What is the problem? Why we put a lot of money, 80% of this money that we bring as tithes and offering, but 80% we take some of them. Let me take for example. When you answer all these things. I ask a simple question after I receive the information that pastors, they can be 40% be taken to the salary of pastors. And one thing I know, as Adventists, others are born in this church, but they don't know anything about the issues of payment of pastors. But they want to speak, but they don't know anything. What I discover is that there was a meeting before that letter, not because the problem is in the part of Cape Conference, even TOC that thing happened, but there was a conference of SAU, not conference, but there was a meeting. They agree and SID that their salaries will not be cut. How can an auxiliary body, not a frontline pastor, receive 100% salary in the time of need, in the time when they're supposed to take their advancement or their investment to take it down so that the pastors who are frontline workers can be supported? What manner of church is that? Can you give me a clarity on that? I couldn't understand. Take money because there's money that we transfer to SAU transfer legal money to SIG. How can you do that in time of need when we are suffering? These pastors have plans, have children, have many things to do. And many of these pastors, not only black pastors, these white pastors, even some of them are suffering.
Yeah.
So can you explain what manner of church are we worshiping? What is happening? Our leaders are not thinking, or it's only their stomach that must be fed. I don't understand. Even today, always asking myself, what is happening? When others on the ground are suffering, those who save us as members are not receiving their supposed amount that's supposed to receive. But those that are in higher structures, let me make an example. Our president is old. They are not planning anything. They are doing the same thing that is supposed to be by conferences. They want to stream live the same programs. SAU is not doing anything, but they're trying to now even them to stream live programs. A Cape Conference is stream living. Gauteng is stream living. Their content is not going to any conference. But because we're doing the same work, why do you not support us with that money, or make sure that our equipment for visual sermons and other stuff, we're given a lot of money so that we can support each other as conferences? What manner of church is this, my pastor?
Yeah. You see, this boils down to the constitution of the church. I think as conferences or the model of the church is that of autonomy, like, self independence. And it goes back to the time, I researched about the accounting procedures of the church since 1934. And I realized that the church has been using, for example, two models of accounting. One would be like the mission, and the other one will be the mission, meaning what the local communities can produce, and the other one will be appropriations, what the international communities contribute to the missionary. And that then, if for example we are in Cape Town, they will use the two accounting models for the same institution, denoting how income is received and to be spent. Now, your local guys will be paid in eggs, and foreign guys will be paid in dollars. So the same mindset is still going down. There is an element of autonomy, but actually the church is a corporation. It doesn't care about, it doesn't incarnate. In other words, the church doesn't reach you to be like you. The church, for example, when we have new souls, and the next Sabbath, when they take up offerings, they take them to, like you were saying, the division and to the general conference. But there is no church there. So I think our mission approach, it needs to be revisited. Mission approach, other people may think, look, we have a mission statement as a church, but we don't have a missiological approach. In other words, you look at the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, when it does mission, it incarnates. It sends the church to the community. And few members don't need to struggle according to their power to give a reflection of what the church is. But the church uses its resources to give the community a reflection of what the church is. I wish you could be saying amen to show that you understand. But it's not the same with us. In other words, our approach is every man for himself and God's for us all. And that's a question of our understanding of the incarnation. Right? I think, yeah, Kgotso.
I'm trying to see. Akebone Majikela. Oh, okay. No, I think he is gone, but I think we can continue. Press, maybe let me ask, what is your observation and what does the church need to do going forward into the future to ensure that it, one, creates leaders who will be able to be true to duty, true to the agenda of the people they lead, through your observation?
I think my observation now would say that we as Africans need to find out our maturity on our own.
Okay.
So that we are not below what God's children are in other races.
Yeah.
You know? And that will mean that, like, we must discover God on our own, that freedom to do that, so that then we can also give a contribution that is something that we have, in other words, conceived without anybody assisting us in that. But now we are guardians of other people's legacy.
That's so true.
In other words, when we are in the church, we propagate what our predecessors have been about, the agenda of our predecessors. We don't discover an agenda of our own. But by that, it doesn't mean we will not be in the community, fellowship of the community of the church, because truth unites. Like I said, a rotten tooth in China is a rotten tooth in Africa. We don't need to fear to know in our own way what every other person has known in his own way. You know, but that's now the other thing, our pastors, I think they don't appreciate the importance of their leadership. We must know that
Okay.
Israel failed because of its spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
And even the country will fail, because if we don't have a quality of spiritual leaders, the whole house will collapse. Because
Yeah.
I was sharing with them at home to say that God said, build me a sanctuary that I may dwell in your midst. But
Yeah.
actually, the sanctuary was protecting the value of the community.
Yes.
And all the time, the value of the people is in God's house. So then
Yeah.
the leaders of worship, the leaders of doctrine, have to really make it a point that the doctrine they cherish, it's a doctrine that is God's will, God's
Yeah.
perfect will for his people. But now, if we are career Christians and we are not pricked by the conscience, but motivated by the rent, I'm telling you, we are going to do.
That's so true. That's so true, Press. I also appreciate the fact that as an Adventist church, we have a lot of academics, right? We have your doctors in theology. However, I noticed that in every other uh, academia sphere, uh, academics are champions of their respective spheres of study, except for the Adventist church. Let me make a typical example. If you are an academic and the church is comfortable with making you a guest speaker in every program that it has, it calls question on your academic credentials.
Yeah.
Because by virtue of what you have learned, you should make the church uncomfortable. Because because although I accept a principle that says truth is not relative, right? Truth is not relative. Truth is always absolute. But our enlightenment of truth is ever progressive. And as a result, you can't take an academic with 2 doctorates and a local church member, a local grain kusuruma, and expect them to be at the same level. And that's what we are seeing in the church, that our academics are confined to the ideologies of the church. They can't even question some of the issues that need to be agitated within the church forum.
Yeah. No, you are right. You are right, Baba. It's a pity, because then if that is the case, then the very leaders tend to be false prophets, because they don't confront, they don't want to make Israel comfortable or uncomfortable
Yes.
with their, because growth is always painful, and healing, applying a remedy, it's not always according to the prescript of the patient. So if the patient is always happy with the doctor in all processes, it means
there's a serious problem.
There will not be a growth, really. Yeah.
No, definitely, Press. I am very interested in the second segment that Majikela wants us to have, Press, about SETCOM. I think it will be a serious injustice if we do not educate the church about SETCOM and do not educate the church about our plight, because you will know, Press, that over the past 7 years or so, we've been seen as mad people. I think, for one, I can attest that I have taken more insults within the confines of Adventism than anywhere else. Loko strateng aban rohe kam koban roha mutreki. So we need to agitate to a point where there is consciousness all around. Ebe batho ba ikgethelang hore they don't want the truth.
No,
But we must
true.
make the truth must be there. It must be in the open for everyone to see, and let it be every man's choice.
Yeah. I think Thomas Sankara says, consciousness, it's a question of consent. In other words, we cannot conscientize an unconsenting individual.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Because, in other words, it's like a fish that lives in a sea, surrounded by salty water, but it is not salted. When you cook it, you still need to salt it. So it's true, consciousness requires consent. I support that statement. So what happens then? People that are, especially in South Africa, especially in our local environment, if they are not awakening to accept responsibility of what the current issues present themselves, or the challenges of the current issues, there's nothing we can do. Those who are consenting to that will be conscious and they will support. Those who are not consenting will not support, even if we move the heavens, because they don't see themselves playing that role, you know. But as it were, Judas discovered Jesus was the Messiah, but what did he do? He chose to betray him for his own sake. But when you look at the end of the story, Judas betrayed himself because he committed suicide. So you cannot betray the truth. And the same way, whatever people do, and I just thank God that at the end of the day, truth marches on, and in God's time. And at the end, we know we shall overcome.
Definitely, Press. Maybe let me ask one closing question. In your view, Press, what is the extent of our loss in the TOC since the division? I want you to go into depth on this issue. Go as far as possible. Go as deep as possible. I want you to express not only that which we lost physically, that people can see and account for, but also the vision that was there and what we would have achieved had we continued on the trajectory that we are on. I know. I know it's painful, Press.
And what is more painful is that time lost will never be regained.
That's so true.
And it's like the leprosy of Miriam caused Israel to stall in its march towards the promised land. And look, starting from the economics, we wanted to have a self-sustaining conference with investments in every district. Investments that will create opportunities for the poor and opportunities for the rich. You know, when I was in Pennsylvania, that's in the US, by the way.
Yes.
Benchmarking there, the brethren in East Allegheny Conference told us, the program you want to embark on will see you being fired in this church. And we were surprised. How does the church reject development?
Progress.
And it happened in America. Black people are independent. They've got the Black Caucus. They've got their own, the destiny of their own people in their own hands.
Yes, sir.
This church is racist. You must understand that. Purely racist. Now, when we implemented the programs in South Africa, that's when the church fought against its own development. But you understand, this is a spiritual thing. The spirit of backwardness the spirit of anti-development.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the agenda of the devil.
Yeah.
Now, the conference have lost that opportunity because now the conference is for sale. The TOC is for sale.
Yeah.
And we as a people have not yet matured and realized what would make us proud. In other words, the basket of our investment, if it was containing eggs, those eggs are broken.
Ish.
And maybe they were golden eggs, and the goose has been feasted on during supper. Now, look, by that time, we had over 40 million rand in Standard Bank investments. But today you go there, what do they have? Nothing. How was that money spent?
Yeah.
We don't see the development. We don't see.
And you know, Press, I think, let me interject a bit. When we had 40 million, over 40 million in reserves, it was reserves and not operational budget.
Mana, we were making a profit, surplus income of over 3 million per month. After 2010, per month. How far could we have gone? So that speed, when we report, the sons of Belial get offended by the progress of God's children.
Yes, sir.
It is when the anointing of God overflows that the devil's anger is rekindled.
Yeah.
And the greatest enemy of truth is not the unbeliever.
Yeah.
It is the hypocrite in our camp. We were taught to believe that the Pope will persecute the Adventist. It's not like that. It is the papacy in the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, why would Jesus say those of men will be betrayed by those of his own family?
Yeah.
Then why do we want to be persecuted by poor Catholics? You read the book of Nehemiah, the book of Ezra. Those books talk about court orders that were given against those that were developing Jerusalem. Who gave those court orders? Now today, in the last days, the church works by interdicts.
Yeah.
Who obtains interdicts against the progress of the church?
Yeah.
The same members. Where are the Catholics in this whole scheme of things?
They are nowhere.
They're
It is
nowhere.
us. It is us against us.
After that, we sing, we are marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. Now, something that I want to tell everybody now is that this controversy is not the controversy of the TOC.
Yeah.
But this is the controversy of the church manifested in the TOC.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a fabrication of the General Conference, the fabrication of the SID, the fabrication of the Union, where all conference officers meet.
Yeah.
And they take votes to destroy work in the TOC.
Yeah.
And what is the TOC? The TOC is the only black institution surviving in New South Africa.
That's true.
It is the only black conference in Southern Africa that has assets that they generated on their own without any mercenary interference.
Yeah.
So when they look at such growth, they get enraged.
Yeah.
Because they cannot capture us. They cannot capture us.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at that, people who say thank you to offices bought by missionaries. How will they feel? You must remember, for all these years, when the unity of the church was discussed, actually not even the unity of the church, the merger, because this is a company language, the merger. It's not an organic language. It's an institutional language, the merger. We always say our head office will be in corner Oxford and Kgbe Street, Bedford View. And this made other people to be supremists. We have never seen a snake digging a hole. The hole for the snake is dug by the rats. And other people, their personal aspiration is to occupy the seat that was set by their master before.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Not to buy their own chairs, design their own future. So that thing has been a threat. And now you see them destroying the TOC. Collectively. Right now, it's no more a secret. We have opened a criminal case against these people.
Yes.
And it is now evident that this has been an eternal scam, not scheme. Scam. In other words, it's a plan to loot, to destroy and distract the mission of the church in this union. Now, if you think I'm insulting, I'm not the first one to say that. Because Sunday Times has written about it in 2013. That the church is being taken to dry cleaners for its millions. Do they refer to the TOC? No. They refer to you, the Cape Conference. They refer to you, Natal. They refer. Which church is taken to cleaners? By who? By the TOC? By Alberton? No. Collectively, they are looters in this church. And everybody is happy about it, except the Albertonian people. Now, these are the very same reasons that delay the talks of unity in this church. Because the bed back, titidi, aitsamai motiar.
Can't understand
They will never
now.
come to light to discuss the problems of the church because they are bloodsuckers. A bed bag will never parade itself where there is light.
True.
But now, what should we wait? Should God's church be lacerated while we watch? Should we wait for more pain and suffering before we can act? I think there are no demigods in this world. There's only one God. There are no demigods. We should not fear anyone.
Press, it is said that you have opened your church. And when they say this, they make reference to Alberton. Maybe let's delve into that issue, because I can imagine that it is a hot topic that people want to hear about. What is this Alberton, and what necessitates the existence of Alberton, and what is its claim to legitimacy?
Well, Alberton is a group of remnants.
Okay.
Remnants. We refuse to apostatize. I mean, this is a scheme. Like I have said, it's a scam. When we're in 2013, we refused to fall to a scam. A session called by the union, which the courts of law in South Africa said it's illegal and unlawful, because we challenged that. So did we challenge a session of the Anglican Church?
No.
We challenged unlawfulness in the Adventist Church.
Yes, sir.
And did we use a document other than the document of the Seventh-day Adventist?
No.
We are Seventh-day Adventists. We defended the principles, the doctrines, and the policies of the church in court, and we won.
Yes.
Now, after winning, did we become the remnant Seventh-day Adventist Church of Alberton in South Africa?
No.
No, we are the Trans-Orange Conference. We are Seventh-day Adventists. So, if I opened my own church, it means I'm powerful. I never knew I'm so influential. Many people tried and they failed.
Yeah.
So it's far from it. It's even now, to tell you privileged information. These people, when the Hawks went there, they say, what do those people want? They are breakaways. What business do breakaways have in our church? We are not breakaway from what?
Yeah.
We are against breakaways.
Exactly.
People who break away from the traditions and the policies of the Seventh-day Adventists. They will not do that in our lifetime.
Yeah.
They will not do that, and we support them. So Alberton is not on a personal show or a road trip of power showing. Alberton is on a road show of demonstrating that people with a conscience are still there.
Yes, sir.
People who will not be bought or sold or intimidated are still there. Not that we are angels, but we still know what is true and what is right. And we will stand by it. So now, if we have opened our own church, why did the judgment in 2018 March of the main case say we must be, for example, Setsiba, whose ordination was annulled, who was fired as a minister of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, must be reinstated? Why did they not challenge it in court? Why? Who went to court? Who were told to reconcile? So when there's a dispute, it's not a dispute of who must be the president in the church. It's a dispute of why should people do as they please in the church. When Jesus was driving out the people who were doing merchandise in the church, was he opening his own church?
No.
When you speak out against, for example, when I criticize the government of the day, am I creating my own country?
No.
So what is opening your own church?
Yeah. Maybe.
Let me tell you, by the way, people don't know, in 2014, December, they took us to court.
Logo case.
The logo case. They said we must no longer be called Seventh-day Adventists. We won.
Yes.
In 2018, we won. They were told we are Adventists. Now, if they take us for the third time, I don't know if they will get a different answer. And by the way, this is why globally we are a first group to fight and remain in the Adventist system. And there's no one who will win against us to say we are not Seventh-day Adventists. Maybe God is talking. I don't know. No one. You can say it in your dreams. You have your own space to dream and your own mind. But it will never happen. Now you ask yourself a question: where are the academics? Are they trophies? Are they like teacups in a cupboard? They are not people who see these things.
It is very interesting. You know, Press, maybe let me interject for a moment. It is interesting for me that the plight of Alberton is one that seeks to state its legitimacy as part of the Adventist church, a church that goes out to minister, to call people to come in. And then once they are in, they are subjected to a process where they have to go to court to give them legitimacy to stay in. It sounds so bizarre that the very church that evangelizes that people must come in is the one that wants to delegitimize the standing of others who are already inside.
Yeah.
It is very bizarre. It is very bizarre. By the way, Press, many who don't know, who make the assumption that you have opened your own church, would not know that you did not call yourself at the organizing of what we now call Alberton.
Yeah.
You did not call churches to a convocation to organize them into a group.
You are right.
But it was the resistance of churches that said we don't agree with the 2013 February session, and thus we affirm the legitimacy of the administration of Pastor Setsiba, and therefore we are saying we want you to continue leading. You were called to the meeting. You came to the meeting as an invitee. You did not call people to a meeting. Maybe just speak briefly on that.
Yeah, true. And people who start their own churches are prophets or messiahs. and so if I'm called to lead, it means I never had a claim that I'm a messiah. Otherwise, I would have called to those I'm saving. If I opened my own church, I would have opened it as a prophet, and people would have come to a prophet. I never had those claims, and I was called by the people. You are saying that rightly so. You are saying that rightly so. That I reflect the wish of the people. It's a delegated authority, a delegated work, an appointment that me and my colleagues are serving at currently. It's not our own thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah. They did it after that session, in protest of that session of 2013 February, which the court said it was wrong. All the sessions are wrong. There will never be a TOC session without Alberton.
Yeah. There will never be a legitimate session of the TOC without Alberton.
There will never be, whether legitimately or illegitimately, there will never be a TOC session without Alberton.
My pastor,
because there is no. Yes.
I see Kgotso is taken over. Thank you, my brother, for that, because I lost some connection, but I'm back now. I was listening. Because of time and data of people, because I want to have the second segment. The second segment, we want us to focus on the SETCOM issue. And the church, I want us to focus on some three difficult questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes, the black emancipation of black churches, SETCOM, and I want you to elaborate more on Fanon when you speak about religion, so and Bikoism, so that we can finish it nicely. But I know that you are admitted in the High Court as an attorney. Yeah. I know that you are admitted in the High Court as an attorney. I saw you when Maponga was taken, was lambasted by the president of TOC. I know, okay, they call him is a man of God heart, the president. Yeah, they say he's a man of God, but they say that when they call him, they say he's a man of God, wara wara. But I don't want to dwell there. But I saw you are the one who read the letter to defend Maponga, but I want to dwell there. But for the sake of time, and you are old, can you make closing remarks so that when we do it again on Sunday, because on Sunday we can use 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
What Sunday?
This one coming one, or we'll be traveling back to Gauteng.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we'll look another date, or next Friday or Wednesday. We'll look at right time so that we can close the show. But my pastor, thank you for your honesty. I know you are like a criminal in Adventist church. When we started to hear about the TOC debacle, we were confused, but because I'm a person who like to ask questions, so I asked some few questions. Other people were honest, saying that no, you are right, but there are a few issues, and others. I know, okay, in TOC, you are divided with many things, but I hope one day, I don't know, a church can be united. I don't know, but I hope one day. When I say about unity differ in many ways, but I hope SAU, I know, okay, the church, the people who own the church are white people. I don't care who say what. People who own the church are white people. Are happy in Adventist church, are in honeymoon. As we work, we increase numbers, but are the one who benefit in everything. They have better houses, they better everything. These people in this church. The CEO of the SAU is a white person. The president now is a white guy. This pastor, I don't even remember his name now. I remember in our session when we were opening, he said that he opened with not a right word, saying that Cape Conference is racial or is rude. But I didn't want to comment that day because he's the one who wanted to stop the matter of the conferences. In that letter, when I read that court judgment, in that letter, he was part of those people who were fighting to the white church to merge with the black church. The same person who was saying that. So I want you to have some words, but before you close, because we were having a month of Biko, Steve Biko, who was born in King Williamstown, just to give us how about Biko, just for 5 minutes before we close.
Yeah, you speak about Biko. Biko was actually nurtured by people like Butiro. In the TOC, we have Tiro, who was a member of our Adventist church, and he was an organizer, Yasaso. That was also the same time Lebupiko in the leadership. So when we talk about our liberation in South Africa, the final move towards liberation was propelled by the young people, some of whom, like Butiro, who were ardent members and preachers in the Adventist church, and who concurrently were with people like Bupiko. So it's a very rich heritage that we must not relegate to nothingness by subjugating ourselves for the sake of better cars and better names, and not finish up the total liberation of our people. But now when you talk of people like Biko, who actually, by the way, Black consciousness was not his initiative. It was after the civil rights struggles of the Negroes in America, in the 60s, from 1958 to 1968. Then post that, then you have people like Kgotso who carried and propelled that agenda. So Adventists should be conscious about their true selves and to realize that the loud cry and the final victory of God's truth will be incomplete without their voluntary, comprehensive participation in actually forging forward the last straw that will bring victory and the coming of Jesus Christ as Black people. Yeah. We should not be apologetic about it.
Yes.
Liberated in thought, liberated socially, liberated economically, liberated politically, sounding the battle cry. Because a revolution, that is why it's called a revolution. It's a war against human injustices and acts that drags down the dignity of another. So that war will never be finished. That war is fought everywhere, in our homes, in the streets, wherever we are. Revolutionaries will stand for what is worth the dignity of another. Protect it in whatever cost that it comes or deserves.
Oh, thanks, my pastor. We'll have a second segment, but we will communicate. Kgotso, do you want to say something before we close?
I wouldn't possibly know where to begin to summarize, but I think this was a much needed engagement, very insightful. It's a pity press when you engaged on the cost of the TOC debacle. We can never really exhaust the loss that we have incurred as a church because of that. We can never really vehemently express the level of loss that we have incurred. I speak with a heavy heart when I speak about the TOC, because I stood on the front lines to witness this great train being derailed. It pains me. It pains me. I could never really, and one would make the argument that when we speak about the loss, we only engage the financial loss, but the finances have a bearing on the work of the church. You will remember that the first church, it was disposing of its assets in order to empower mission. Now, there's going to come a time when we will need to dispose of assets to empower mission, but we can't do that when we have no assets to dispose of, and that's what pains me. That's what pains me.
Thank you very much, my pastor. I know people are saying that they have data, but we cannot speak more than 2 hours. At least we need, people have time. But what will happen now is that I will invite Marara Maponga, not to the second segment, but in the third one, I will invite Marara, because as Black Adventists, we need to engage each other with difficult things, with crucial issues in our lives. We know God is the owner of the church, but the organization is run by people who have their own tendencies of doing evil things and things of their needs. So we will collaborate well. We will do it Wednesday or Friday, but the third one, I will invite Marara to be part of that, so that we can conclude the matter. But if I can, I will try to speak with the president of TOC Orange Grove. If he want to be part of this, he can come. Even Babankosi, if you want to be part of this, he can come. We are not a secret society. We are open for everybody to engage, and people can listen for themselves. When people are speaking on their corner, they can think that they know everything, but when they speak on open view, when people can listen, we will see what will happen. Thank you very much, my pastor, for your humbleness to come forward so that we can have this appointment today. I think a lot of people, young people, are blessed. We hope for more. May God give you all the time when we speak together. We're all saying that you pray for one thing to God. God keep me not to be ill. I think God is still doing that. Till we meet, I think now we're on level 1. I'll be coming to Pretoria or Gauteng. We'll meet again so that at least before this year ends, we can pray together for the last time. God bless you, Kgotso, Kgobe. The short guy, but is a powerful tool in the hand of God. Thank you very much. You are closing it here. Till next time. Ciao. Thank you, my friend.
Maranatha.